the treatment. The treatment is the liquidation. There is some pain with that, but the pain is a result of the mistakes made previously. The question is only now, do you have short-term pain that lasts for a year?
A year? You're going to somehow liquidate $60 trillion in liabilities in a year?
Or do you keep propping the bad system up and allow this pain and agony to grow and lengthen? And that's what we're doing. And that's why we're in great danger now of taking a very, very serious recession and turning it into a depression.
Yeah, turning it into, well, guess what? It's a depression, butthole. And it's going to get worse. And yeah, their solution isn't a solution, okay? Spending more money won't solve the problem. What's going to happen is this redistribution thing that you don't like is going to happen. The rich people holding the IOUs are going to just have to give them the middle finger and just say, game over, we're starting over. All right, so we just divvy up all the assets as equitably as possible. I mean, try to be at least, you know, give some appreciation for people who weren't reckless in how they spent their money, and maybe give them a slight advantage and make the people who have a huge amount of debt pay us some kind of price in terms of what their percentage is going to be because of their reckless behavior, and figure out some way to, you know, divide up the national assets, okay, and start the fuck over. And then maybe this time be smart enough not to allow things like Hearst and Getty and Kennedy and Rockefeller and Bloomingbergs and you know, Rothschilds and all these other fucking pricks to ever be created in the first place.
Well, ultimately it's the destruction of the dollar. We have a financial crisis. The financial system has collapsed because it was based on a fiat dollar standard.
No, that's not why it collapsed. It collapsed because we artificially said, yes, it's good to make it easy for people to borrow money. And they made it too fucking easy for people to borrow money. But there was still a national choice to borrow money. All right, the national government borrowed money. They didn't print it, Ron Paul, like you keep saying. The Federal Reserve didn't print the money. No, they borrowed the fucking money.
Which came out of the breakdown of the Bretton Woods. The Bretton Woods was established in 1944, broke down in 1971. The dollar then became the gold of the world. We were given the privilege of just printing the money so we could live beyond our means. We didn't have to work. Jobs went overseas.
We didn't have to work. I mean, that's just remember that, all you Ron Paul assholes. This guy says you're not working hard enough. He says you're not working enough jobs. You're not working for a low enough wage. That's what he just fucking said. All right, and you haven't been working since 1970. That's his fucking argument. You know.
And this you know, created a whole bubble. But now that system has ended. The financial system has collapsed, and it's not working. And I'm sure behind the scenes, the international bankers, including Bernanke, are worried and drastically about this and are devising a new system. But
they're not devising any new system. All right, they're just trying to figure out a way so that all these rich people get to keep their money. Okay, that's why they increased the deposit insurance to $250,000, because they want to make sure that the rich people are protected. All right, that their IOUs are worth something. So they're basically just paying off the IOUs. All right, to the very richest people in the world. And it's really, really stupid. So we agree that is dumb and idiotic. But we agree it's dumb and idiotic for different reasons, because you think those rich people are entitled to that fucking money.
Where we're going is the destruction of the dollar, because everything we do, whether it's Treasury, whether it's the Federal Reserve, whether it's the Congress, it all means print more money, pass it out.
No, it means borrow more money, okay? It doesn't mean print. This printing thing doesn't take place. I'll post a link in the description, okay? The amount of money the amount of cash that's been printed is irrelevant to these trillion-dollar equations, all right? It's not about what money has been printed. It's about what money has been borrowed.
And that will lead to more devaluation of the dollar. The dollar now, compared to the dollar the Federal Reserve inherited in 1913, is worth about 3 cents. And
yeah, and when did most of that depreciation take place? It took place when we had inflation at the time we spent the money. So if we deficit spent back in the 70s, we had 10% inflation. All right, because we weren't putting it off. And it wasn't until Ronald Reagan. That's when the percentage of debt to GDP started going right the hell back up. All right, now it's back to the level it was in 1950, and that happened because of policies of grotesque deficit spending that started with Ronald Reagan, your friend.
With the amount of tremendous acceleration of spending and deficits, we're going to eventually set the stage for a possible panic out of the dollar. And we have had a taste of that in the 1970s, but Volcker was able to revive confidence in the dollar. This go around, though, it's much, much more serious.
Yeah, it is serious, and it's well. The only good news is that all currencies are sort of tied to each other, and a lot of other economies are in big trouble. But yeah, money will fly. Money will start. The rich people will start buying up the best, the most reliable assets as it becomes apparent which ones have that lasting value, and then inflation will be then out of the bag. No more deflation, inflation.
So where we're going on the policies we have today is a probable destruction of the dollar, and that's worse than the conditions that we have today.
Yeah, well, the real game will be is that the rich, like I said, will be out of the dollar. Okay, so the destroyed dollar will be the dollar the regular working man is left with. Okay, the wealthy will be clear of it, all right, because they don't have to live their life on a dollar. They can live their life in Sweden or Europe or someplace else. They can keep their money in any currency, where the average common American has to transact their life in this currency, in this country. They can't play international games.
It will be destined to be much poorer. Of course, everybody knows we're getting poorer now. But if you as an individual, or I as an individual, live way beyond our means and borrow a lot of money, it's easy to understand. Oh, well, we have to quit borrowing. Oh, we have to pay our debts. Oh, we have to get a job.
Listen to that. Did you hear that again? We have to get a job. Did you hear that? That's how much respect he has for the average working American, who's working more hours than ever before. It's just complete bullshit. He has no appreciation for what creates value. Well, he does. He does know it all too well, and that's what makes him such an insidious character. He's basically saying that Americans have to do $70 trillion worth of work for the rich. That's what he's saying.
The country has to do the same thing. We've lived beyond our means. We depended on borrowing trillions of dollars from overseas, which means now we have...
Yeah, because we didn't pay the taxes, because you and jackasses like you said, yes, tax cuts create jobs. Tax cuts create booming economies. Tax cuts don't pay bills, jerk.
To get jobs, we have to work, we have to pay down debt. The only question is are we going to allow the market to operate and cleanse the system and get back to work quickly, or are we going to prolong it?
Yeah, back to work quickly. See, again, just listen to him. All right, he's talking about, basically get rid of the minimum wage. That's get people back to work. They should be working for $3 an hour for the king. That's all he's talking about. Let's do the Mexican example, okay? America should be owned by 12 wealthy families, and we all should be serfs to that.
The agony by propping up. For instance, one of the goals has been to keep prices of houses up and to stimulate housing. You don't want to do that. We have a million too many houses. We overbuilt because people were deceived into thinking there were savings because the Federal Reserve had low interest rates, and we don't need new houses.
We weren't. No one was deceived. Everybody knew what they were doing. They took on an awful lot of debt, exactly, to buy a thing that they had no expectation would increase in value, because everybody thought you could just perpetually do this stupid growth thing, that capital, that surplus would grow in value, and without inflation, that somehow you could have both. You could have value. You could have hard assets grow in value without doing any work whatsoever, and that money could get more valuable over time, and that you had no inflation, that nobody had to work for that, and that was the bullshit. Yeah, so yeah, that's over.
But we need to help the poor people who save their money, because we want the prices of houses to go down and let these houses be sold. But if you keep a $100,000 house artificially higher than that, no, people aren't going to buy it. So who gets?
Yeah, well, who's doing that? Nobody can do it. They want to do it, but they can't do it, and they won't do it until inflation kicks in. So when inflation kicks in, then it won't matter, because then people will have preposterous evaluations but their debt will actually go down in comparison. But yeah, everybody will be so poor it won't matter anyway, because no one will be paying the bills.
Buy them. Well, the taxpayer in general bail them out at artificially high prices. But not only do we bail out the housing industry, but we're buying up these derivatives which have no value. That's where these trillions of dollars are involved. And
right, and then who's that money going to? The very people you think create something, the rich. All right, that's who the money's going to. George Bush's family, all the rest of these people that invest in this crap. And it's protecting the big investors, not the little investors. It's the big, giant, wealthy monsters that it's bailing out. And it's just it's a complete waste of money. But it's a bunch of people who are rich deciding on protecting the rich.